And oh my gosh, we are back to the terrible color on my little tiny laptop. Anyway, this is going to be the lesson that's coming up this next Saturday. I know I still owe you for last Saturday. I will get to that, but right now I just did this one and it's in my head. So that's why I'm doing this one first. Okay, so the next two letters, well, the next letter is pay. And does that show up? Do I need to bring this a little closer? I want you to see it after all. Okay, so pay, and then it also has a form without the dogish. And this is one of the letters where it matters. It makes a P sound when it does have the dogish. It makes an F sound when it does not. And this is the pay so feet. This is at the end of a word, and it never has a dogish. It's just always going to be like that. This is the word pay. So here's the P sound, and then the two dots make it an A, and the hey on the end is just the way it ends. So pay, and that means mouth. And whenever you see a tiny little word in Hebrew that's like just a pay and it might have one vowel with it or something, you can pretty much assume that it's going to have something to do with the word pay. And now that we've gotten through almost all the alphabet, it's getting cool because we can start actually reading things and putting words together. Okay, oh, where did I put, there we go. Okay, so this is a word that we've gone over before, key. And it's the hard k sound because it has the dogish inside the cough. And then that makes the E sound. And it's a preposition or a conjunction that can mean all kinds of things. It's one of those words where you see it and you kind of have a sense of it, but then you read two or three words along so you can figure out how you should really translate that. It could mean for, because, when, if. It can mean a whole bunch of things, but it'll make sense when you start seeing it. Here is a word that we say every week. You should be familiar with it if you can sound it out. Here's the ka again, and it has the shva under it, so it's just a k sound. Ka, va, o, d. Kavod. Malkuto, kavod malkuto leolam vayed. I can't do it until I do it in the row, in the sequence. Okay, and it means glorious. It comes from the word kavad, which means to be heavy. So how do you get glorious out of heavy? This is one of the places where I think the sense of the Hebrew word has filtered down all the way into our modern English, because we use it the same way. We talk about, well, my boss told me that we were going to be expanding and hiring new people, but I didn't give his words much weight. Or we say that somebody took his advice very lightly, or they were light-minded. That how much weight you give to something means how important you think it is, how seriously you take it. And if you take it as something light, it's something that doesn't matter. You discard it. So if it's weighty in Hebrew, it's important, and it can even be glorious. It has a great deal of worth and value. So this is kavod, and that's, like I say, we say that in the Shema. Here is a very similar word, doesn't have the vav because it has a different vowel. Kavad, and that's more like just really heavy, not glorious, just heavy. And you can't, I was wondering if this would be able to be seen, and maybe not. So, okay, I'll try to hold this still. So we've been through those words. Ki, for, because, something like that. Kavad, heavy. Peh, mouth. For heavy mouth. That may not make a lot of sense, but this is from Exodus 4:10, or in Hebrew we'd say Shemot 4:10. Shem is name, Shemot is a feminine plural form, so that's names 4:10. This is when Moses is talking to God, and God is saying that he's going to send him back to Pharaoh, and have him do all these wonders. And Moses says, but my tongue is thick, is kind of how it usually gets translated. What it actually says in Hebrew is my mouth is heavy. So what he's saying is, I don't move my lips well. If you've had too much wine, or you've had taken an antihistamine or something like that, and you cannot move your tongue really well, and today I can hardly do that because I have a really sore throat just on one side. But if you, that's what he's trying to say to God. I can't move my mouth well. I don't speak clearly and distinctly. It's not, you're not going to want me to represent you. And God says, yeah, I do. But anyway, that's what that means. KBL Peh, for or because, mouth heavy. Okay, so I am going to erase this and move on. And like I said, we'll be doing this one this coming Saturday. Okay, so a set of words that you really need to know. Let's see. Oh, and I didn't even put that on the thing that I was going to print out. Okay, so let's see. I'm not even sure what's under here. I'm going to say it's that. Okay, panim. And that's how you say face in Hebrew, but it's plural. It's kind of like mine. Panim, faces. You always say faces. It's not just one face. And this ends up turning up in a lot of sayings, Hebraisms, things like that. So here's one. And let's see. Okay. And that's all there is in that. Okay. Leaf, there's the schwa, so that's the end of the syllable. Leaf, nay. And I don't remember how many times I've said this. If I'm repeating myself to the point of nausea, please forgive me. But panim is the plural ending. When you change, when it goes into the construct state, you change the im to a. And that means the something plural of. So faces of, or face of, and li is the prefix, and it means toward or to. So it's toward face of. What that means in Hebrew is before. When you're toward the face of someone, you're facing them, you're before them. So that is the word that gets translated as before. Moses went before Pharaoh, lifnei. And I'm going to show you, let's see, I'm just going to change this one so I don't have to go too far down. And then, and let's see, I think all these vowels change. Isn't that correct? Okay. It's the same letters. It means the same thing. And this is staying there. Okay. Okay, that's the kaf sofit. Lafaneka. Lafaneka. And this is before you. The ka on the end means you. And you'll find that all over the place. So the suffix, here's panim, here's a prefix, here's a suffix, and it becomes a phrase meaning before you. Okay, one more. That's along the same lines. No, I'm not making that right. Never mind. Why can't I? Duh. And I think, okay. And you'll notice that sometimes it turns into an F sound, and sometimes it's a P sound. Just depends on, and I don't even know for sure all the rules about pronunciation that way. I know that I kind of get a feel for it and can kind of predict what's going to happen, but I'm not always perfect, so I'm just going to not even try to explain some of the rules. Just trust me. Let's see. Okay, so this is where it ends this time. Okay. Beef neem. Okay, so here's panim. There's the panim part, but it's now a fe instead of a pei. And ba is at the beginning. And normally it would just be like the two dots and just be a shva. But in this particular form, it's B. So beef neem. And do you remember what the prefix ba is? Just by itself, it signifies a house. But when it's a prefix, it means in. So faces in. This means inside. If you're inside, you're facing in, your face is toward the inside. This is inside. Okay, and then another word that has a bunch of forms that has a pay in it. And let's see. It's okay. Ya-fe. That means handsome or beautiful. This would be for a man. The same word gets used for men and women. It has a slightly different sound to it, but you don't change the word. Like in English, we have beautiful or handsome. We don't say the man is beautiful usually, or that the woman is handsome. It happens sometimes that we do say that, but that's not normally what we say. But the same word goes for both. This is for men, and if you want it to be for a woman, you just change the last sound. Yafa. So that is beautiful for a woman. Then there's a town in Israel. This is the Holam Vav Yafo, or Jaffa is usually how you get it translated. And there's a little bit of disagreement about what the name means. I find a lot of people say, yes, it comes from beautiful. Some people say, no, it comes from this other thing. But, you know, very likely it comes from this. And then there's Noah's son. Which is another form of the word. Yaphet. So that's Noah's son's name. Now we're going to go on to the other letter that we're going to do today. And that's a tzade. I hear it called a tzaddik sometimes. I was taught tzade, and when I heard people saying tzaddik, I thought, they're doing it wrong. No, it's just another way of saying it, and I just was taught a different way first. There's a tzade, and it makes like a TZ or a TS sound, and it's like the sound in pizza, but instead of saying pizza, make sure that when you're pronouncing this, you put the two consonants together, pizza. And this also has a Sofit form. I don't write it very often. I think it's like that. Okay, so that'd be the tzade Sofit. Goes at the end of a word. This is supposed to be a fish hook. There isn't really a word that means fish hook that's pronounced tzade. But you can see the echoes of it in a bunch of different words. And it usually shows up with things to do with hunting, or it could be fishing. One of those is, okay, Saeed. That's not going to turn out right. And that was, yeah, okay. And this had a what? Okay. Saeed. And this can mean, sometimes it'll mean a hunter. It can be the person. But more often you're going to run into it as victuals, food stuff, whatever you can acquire and get by fishing or hunting. What you can get that way. Tzade, hunter or one of those. But you also see it in some other things. So remember the tzade, sometimes a yod, and a dalet. That's the fish hook, that's hunting, that's something like that. Here is something, a name of a town. Tzidon. This is a noon sofit. Tzidon. Sidon. So it's the word, the noon on the end turns it into a noun usually. So it's a place of fishing or hunting. It could just mean hunting perhaps. I'm not even really sure, but I know that that's where it comes from, is from the tzade or the tzayid. And then there's another town that I know you've heard. And this isn't really going to be about the hunting or fishing, but I just think it's interesting. Okay, tzade, yod, resh. And we haven't gotten to the resh yet. It'll get its own day. Tzor, Sor, Sidon, Tzor. Tyre and Sidon. And they start with the same letter in Hebrew, but when we read them in the Bible, they're going to have this one with a T and that one with an S. And you might even find some words written with the beginning Z that come from a tzade. But this is Tyre and Sidon. Tzor and Sidon. And then there's another town. And I'm going to have to write small to get this in. Let's see. Okay, here's the tzayid. You can see that in this word. Beit, should know that one. House of. It's not bayit, which just means house. It's beit, house of. Beit Saida, Bethsaida. This is Bethsaida in Hebrew. So another word that you're going to see a lot of and hear a lot of that has a tzade in it. How do I do that? Okay. Okay. Eretz. Eretz. And it's going to have the accent on the first syllable. Eretz. And here's the tzadi sofit. Make that really long. Okay. So this means land. And you'll hear people talk about going to the land, meaning the land of Israel. Or you might see Eretz Yisrael, land of Israel. There's another word that kind of means the same thing. And just so you can keep them straight, let me put them both out here. And let's see. Okay. Adama. Adama. And you can see Adam, in here. And Adam, Edom, like Edom. What's another one? Adom. Edom is Edom. Adom is red. Adamah is ground or soil. And damam means to bleed. All these words are kind of tied in there together. Dam by itself is blood. So these two words have similar meanings, not exactly the same. We don't say we're going up to the Adamah of Israel because this is more soil or ground. Adam was made from the ground. And so Adam, was made from the Adamah. This is more like a nation. He looked over all the land. He surveyed the land that he owned. And land can also mean ground and soil, but we use them a little different too. This would be more like ground, and that would be more like land in English, the way we would use them. Okay, so, and we've done Yatzah before, but I'm going to review it because there's a verse coming up. And that's so cool that we can do verses. And that's an olive on it? Yeah, okay. Yatzah. Yatzah. That means to go out. And here's a word that that's made from it. And okay. And yods and vavs interchange a lot. Remember that? Double checking here. This is okay. Motza. Motza. And this comes from to go out, and it means that which comes out, the thing that exits. And another word that we're going to need for the verse. Oh, I just had this. Okay. Kaf lamed with a holon. Kol. It means all, every, one of those usually. So, and you're going to see kol all over the place too. So I'm going to put these things together. Oh, you know what? I spelled kol wrong, and I wanted to explain that. Oh, because I was saying it, I was writing it the way it's spelled. I mean, the way it's pronounced, not the way it's spelled. Because I'm always telling you, if you see any kind of line across there, it's going to be an ah sound. Except this one, you always pronounce kol. Why would that be? And that's why I put the holum up there, because I knew it just had two letters. Okay, you always use this as an ah sound, except. And as soon as you think you're getting a feel for things, there's always an exception. So if it's the first syllable and that syllable is accented, then this becomes an O class vowel. So kol only has one syllable. So obviously that syllable is going to be the one with the accent. And so that becomes an O sound. Kal, what looks like kal, is going to always be pronounced kol, but written kal. Okay, so kol, motza, I already forgot. Okay, kol motza, peh, and we know this word, right? Because we just, oh, this one's going to be phi though. This is an example of when I said if you see a tiny little word with some vowel and a peh or a phe, it probably means mouth. This is an example. This says phi, not peh, but it means mouth. And I'm not going to put vowels on this. I'm not going to dictate how people pronounce it. Okay. Kol motza phi Adonai, or Yehovah, or Yahweh, however you want to pronounce that. All that goes out from, all that exits the mouth of God. This is what we live by. All that comes out from the mouth of God. And I think that's going to be it for this lesson. And if I have time, I will get the other one done in just a minute. Talk to you later.